We cannot design a system which reflects or replicates the body's functioning, even close to that. Despite so much of advancement in metallurgy and plastics and what have you, we cannot come close to the performance levels of human body.
This is something everybody should be serious about, right? The access to medical facilities should be a fundamental right, at least to a point where they can take care of themselves from day-to-day mundane things. Can heart think?
Heart does not think, but see what happens is happier people always live longer. And it's a proven thing that lonelier people and people who are introverted and don't mix much with society, they always live less. Actually, there is a big myth with regards to open heart. A lot of people think, even doctors probably don't know, that open heart is nothing about opening of heart.
Why, as a surgeon, where you are so focused on your day-to-day life and saving your patients, this healthcare becomes so important to you?
Healthcare is important to everybody. People don't realize it. This water bottle is important to you. अब मैं आपको पानी पीने नहीं दूंगा, तब आपको समझ में आएगा कि पानी की क्या वैल्यू होती है.
You know, rest all the diseases, like kidney gives you some time, liver gives you some time, cancer gives you some time, like a couple of years. The heart usually, and the news which is floating all around, that people just drop dead. Do you deal with a broken heart as well? Do you know that as of now, medically, cardiology or the heart-related diseases are the biggest killer all across the world. And somehow, even with the lifestyle challenges we are having in India, we are topping the world. And that's why I'm dedicating this particular episode on to talk and learn more about the heart-related issues. Heart could be our friend too. And all the killings that we know is the sad part of this story. The things could be different if we learn and we are aware more about this story. So that's why today I have got somebody who saves life, who's one of the most senior person in Bhubaneswar, who doesn't deal the heart from outside but from inside as well. Dr. Debashish, welcome to the episode.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
me.
And before I start talking to the doctor, I have another request from all of you. We put a lot of effort in making such episodes and try to bring beautiful stories. Doctor made a time on Sunday and made sure that the story is out there. Please watch this episode till end, because one way or the other this is going to benefit you and your family. So do not forget to share and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue bringing such stories. And lastly, this particular channel and this particular episode is being sponsored by Dramantram, the creative agency who believes in promoting these stories by visually enhancing it. So in case if you are a business owner and if you need any kind of branding and visual promotion, you should talk to Dramantram. So let's jump on to our story. Dr. Debashish.
Lovely.
We have been talking and I pulled out you as in, today being a Sunday, you have given your time and you were open enough to talk about all these things. Okay. Before we jump into the stories, I want to, set a little context. Imagine me as a 12-year-old kid who wants to understand and learn about cardiology, the heart health. The reason why I'm saying this is not that the 12 years are less intelligent. It's only that we might appeal to most of our audience, which help them understand it. So We'll try to take this up.
Sure.
And we'll try to make it a fun conversation.
Great.
Okay?
Works with me.
Awesome. So tell us something about you, as in, how have you become, as in, the heart specialist?
As an accident. See, what happened is, a long time back, I was working as a senior resident in institute, central government institute called JIPMER in Pondicherry. And it so happened that there was a big bomb blast there nearby in a place called Tindivanam. And what has happened is that approximately 40 people or 50 people, very seriously wounded, were immediately rushed to JIPMER. Tindivanam must be about 40-50 kilometers from that place. And Tindivanam is in Tamil Nadu, whereas Pondicherry is a union territory by itself. So I was on duty. I was the duty senior resident. I was the operating surgeon. So as the casualties were rushed in, I operated 3 days, 3 nights non-stop.
Wow.
Because of the 40 casualties. They're all very seriously wounded. It was a major bomb blast of that sort. So at the end of the day, what has happened is, we got a call saying that the Union Health Minister, Ambumani Ramdas, is coming down to visit. And he would appreciate because he himself was a doctor.
Okay.
So he would appreciate if the treating surgeon stands by and briefs him. So anyway, we all agreed to that. And the director of the institute, whom I'd met occasionally, Professor KSVK Subbarao, he also came down and was sitting with me. We were waiting for the minister to arrive. But the minister got delayed by something.
Okay.
So from 11 o'clock, we waited till 6:30 when he finally arrived, and we were all talking. KSVK Subbarao Saab was the head of CTVS department. And he was also the director of the institute.
Okay.
So he started asking me, what are you doing in general surgery? Sir, kuch nahi kar raha hu. What are your plans? Onco surgery, sir, I am interested in onco. No, don't go into that. So he washed out all my ideas. He said, why don't you see, since you're doing trauma, you're doing thoracic, and you've done vascular repairs all by yourself, 40 cases. So why don't you look for cardiothoracic and vascular? That would be highly satisfying. I had absolutely no clue to it. He said, sir, I have never worked there.
Okay.
So he called his assistant professor. He's saying he has not worked in CTVS. What does that mean? Pakdo isko leke. So he just got hold of me, took me there. That was how I got into CTVS. Having said that, I had a bit of fascination for the subject, but somehow I never got around to seeing a CTVS department working in it. My luck would have it, because I did my post-graduation from Jamshedpur, Tata Main Hospital. From there, I did 3 years senior residency in Jipmer, Pondicherry. And I was set to become assistant professor there. In fact, I joined as assistant professor in general surgery. Then I left it quickly. I did my MCH in cardiothoracic and vascular surgery.
Okay. Pardon me, but it's coming from the audience. I could hear them and dumb me. Is that, what is this CTVS that you said?
Yeah, the whole subject is cardiothoracic and vascular surgery. It's a big subject.
Right.
So cardiac, thoracic is chest wall and lungs. And vascular is blood vessels, arteries as well as veins. So cardiothoracic and vascular surgeons, they deal with all the diseases connected to heart, lungs, chest wall, and blood vessels. A little bit, institutes have started to offer separate courses in MCH in thoracic surgery, MCH in vascular surgery. The debating is going on as to whether that's good for us or bad for us. But the parent branch is cardiothoracic and vascular. It's a branch that encompasses diseases of cardiac problems, thoracic problems, and vascular problems.
So you call it CTVS.
Correct.
So to all the audience, for the rest of the podcast, we'll use CTVS. Thank you so much for explaining. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of experience you hold as a CTVS expert, the number of patients and what you have done?
Well, cardiothoracic and vascular is a very big branch. And I have been in practice for the last 12 years or so. So I deal with adult open heart surgeries. I deal with all thoracic surgeries and all vascular surgeries. I do not do complex congenital anomalies, birth defects, that is. Complex ones I don't do. But other than that, I deal with open heart problems, particularly of adults.
Do you deal with a broken heart as well?
Actually, there is a big myth with regards to open heart. A lot of people think, even doctors probably don't know, that open heart has nothing about opening of heart. People think कि open heart का मतलब होता है when you open the heart, it's called open heart. It has nothing to do with opening or not opening the heart. If you use bypass machine during an operation, it's called open heart.
And what do you mean by bypass machine when you say that?
There are certain types of surgeries, there are certain types of situations where it is not possible to operate on heart, because heart is the only organ of your body which does not have any rest whatsoever. You cannot put it to rest. Right? Now, the problem with that is, if you and your audience wrap your mind around it, how the hell do we operate on heart? Suppose there's a problem. And we want to get inside, repair something. Now, technically it is feasible. But whether it's feasible from medical point of view, I mean, how do you stop heart? So what happened is, there was a big cardiothoracic and vascular surgeon called Gibbons. For a cardiac information, only 2 doctors, surgeons have been awarded Nobel Prize. And both are cardiac surgeons. And one of them was Gibbons. He invented this bypass machine. So what it does, it bypasses your venous blood into a machine that cleans it up, oxygenates it, and then pushes it back. See, basically your heart has to receive blood from the body, send it to lungs, which oxygenates it, receives it from the lungs again, and then pumps it to the body. So it receives venous blood, sends it to lungs, receives oxygenated blood back from lungs, and sends it to the body. So the problem is, this is going on continuously. There is no rest. When you want to operate on that person, how do you do it? I mean, technically it is akin to killing him. There was a saying, an aphorism given by a famous surgeon. If you want to destroy your career and your reputation as a surgeon, you should operate on a human being's heart. Because if you want to operate on somebody's heart and blood vessels, you're going to destroy your reputation as a career, because the person will die. And then they'll say that, you kill people like that. So to prevent that, Gibbons designed a machine which takes care of oxygenation and also the small pump which pushes the blood. So you're basically bypassing the blood.
Right.
It is not returning back to heart, it is going to the machine. From machine oxygenation and pumps back into the body.
It's a temporary heart that you just give.
It is a temporary heart and lung machine. It's called heart-lung machine.
Heart and lung machine. How big is that?
Approximately as large as this table over here, roughly around 4 feet.
Okay.
4 feet into about 3 feet.
I just want my audience to visualize it.
We can share a photo of my operating and all that. The photo of a video, I'll send it back and you can share it.
Now, the reason there is more to it is that whenever I share such stories and talk to you, I think I feel blessed how beautifully the body is designed and how we should be taking care of such things.
I can tell you the complexity of a human body boggles people like us who operates daily.
Yeah.
Right. We cannot design a system which reflects or reciprocates or replicates the body's functioning, even close to that. Despite so much of advancement in metallurgy and plastics and what have you, we cannot come close to the performance levels of human body. It's not possible.
Exactly.
Now think of this. See, your heart is beating roughly about 80 to 90 times in a minute. It goes on beating.
Yeah.
There is no rest whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right? So in a minute it's 70. In an hour, 70 to 60.
70 to 60.
And then into 24.
So millions and billions would be a listener.
So now, even when you sleep, the liver goes to sleep, the kidneys goes to sleep, the brains go to sleep, intestine go to sleep when you're not eating. But heart does not have any sleep whatsoever. You don't allow it to rest.
Right.
Now, there could be some birth defects also.
Yeah.
So that means your heart is, as it is, at a risk because it's not normal. Fine. India is the world capital of heart diseases because we have basically our lifestyle patterns, our dietary patterns, and our social situations are such that we take a lot of fat, a lot of carbohydrates, and our intake with the rise in per capita income is going up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's when you think of these things 40 years back, how many of us were taking pizzas and burgers and ice creams and all these things?
Nice.
As income goes up, we deal with these things daily. We smoke. Ladies have fascination for golgappas and this and that. So nutritionally, we are damaging it even further. We're taking a lot of diet which does not translate into meaningful protein intake or meaningful nutritional intake, but only adds empty calories to our diet. And we don't exercise much. So that gets into trouble because now you have a country which has very high incidence of heart problems, both congenital as well as acquired. Now, congenital refers to those who are since birth. So birth defects. If you take in terms of incidence, every year we should be adding something like 6 to 7 lakh babies with congenital anomalies in this country. It's because of our population.
Yeah, and also I think more than gene, because if the parents have developed out of their habits, now that also becomes congenital for the babies, right?
See, what happens is there are certain at-risk problems, like particularly consanguineous marriages, people who marry within their families, cousins, etc. Or those who have family history of a problem. If a mother has a hole in the heart, it's likely the baby will also get.
Okay.
Trends and families.
Right.
So these are problems. Third thing is where the mother's age is very high. So late pregnancies, beyond 35, 40 years of age, those are the problems. There's poverty itself.
Okay.
When the nutrition intake is very poor and the baby is not very well formed and grown, you have a situation there. So ideally you will be, mathematically we will be adding something like 6 to 7 lakh babies with heart defects every year. Right. I don't think more than 4,000 or 5,000 are operated in a country in a year. Right. If you take in terms of acquired diseases refers to those diseases which are not present since birth, but we acquired it as we grew.
Yeah.
So acquired disease is the main problem. Now, there are certain overlap areas here because we are also called in certain parlances they're known as non-communicable diseases. The gist of the story is that we are at a very high risk as a country. We are losing a lot of people.
Okay. I'm sure everybody has a big scar from the COVID. But this is something interesting coming up because I do want to talk to you about the overall health and cardiology and all. But why, as a surgeon, where you are so focused on your day-to-day life and saving your patients, this healthcare becomes so important to you?
Look, healthcare is important to everybody. People don't realize it.
Yeah.
See, this water bottle is important to you.
Sure.
अब मैं आपको पानी पीने नहीं दूंगा, तब आपको समझ में आएगा कि पानी की क्या वैल्यू होती है. If it is in front of you, you don't realize, its importance.
Yeah.
You don't give it any damn, पानी है. But then, If I take it out and I tell you that I will not give you any water till this podcast is over, we will have a lunch. Lunch के बाद सोचेंगे पानी के बारे में. Then what happens? So you come to realize the value of something that is easily accessible to you only when it is denied to you.
Right.
चली जाती है. And you don't have that. Indian healthcare that way is there. In terms of numbers, we do things that will dwarf any other country.
Right.
The number of surgeries being done, the number of patients being seen, but there is no structure to it. There is no rules to it. There is no coordination to it.
I'm so loving this conversation, and I'm so appreciative what you're saying. The reason being, it could have been just a conversation where we talked about your patients, your achievements and all, but you're targeting a bigger system. You're talking of something much bigger. And that's so important. That's why I'm trying to emphasize that you being a single doctor, what makes you think that these things could be changed, and why suddenly people should be aware about this?
Hopeful, because see, what happens is ultimately we are slowly moving towards third-party payments. What I'm saying is, when it's as simple as you come to me and you take my consultation, pay me 500 rupees.
Right.
I can tell you that I diagnosed you pneumonia, or I can say that it's a complication of diarrhea. I can tell you it could be this, that, whatever it is. There is no structure to it, format to it. It's just a two-way interaction.
Right.
You tell me what happened and I tell you what you're supposed to do about it. Fine. But if a third-party agreement, when you don't pay me, either insurance company pays me or government pays me or a health scheme pays me, whatever. You call it Prime Minister's Awas Yojana or Swasthya Yojana and all those things. Then what happens is certain amount of structure, certain amount of rules come in.
Okay.
I have to submit data to say that you had pneumonia.
Okay.
I have to show that I did an X-ray and found pneumonia.
Right.
Then my antibiotic therapy or whatever therapy that I gave it to you should fit into the expected algorithm of treatment.
So there is more scrutiny, there is more audits, as in there is a
Correct.
possibility that some third eye is watching it, right?
I'll tell you one thing. I wrote once an international paper and it was highly appreciated about the history of cancer chemotherapy and cancer treatment. You'll be surprised to know, once upon a time for cancer breast, the standard of care was to cut away the chest and the entire hand also.
How old back, as in how many years back? we are talking?
1890s.
Okay.
It was the standard of care. We used to call a radical mastectomy and super radical mastectomies. It was the standard of care because the idea was that cancer keeps on spreading.
Right.
So you should go wide enough and cut it along with the adjoining tissue and cut it so wide that you take a lot of normal tissue along with it, and that's a price to pay for saving your life.
Was that in India? Was it all across the
No,
world?
all across the world.
Okay.
That was standard of care. There was a famous surgeon called Halsted who became famous because he first advocated this and started to prove and started to do it. Halsted's mastectomy was such a rage that it used to be demonstrated. Mind you, we're talking about days where anesthesia was not very common.
Right.
You're doing all these things without the patient being anesthesia, a little bit of brandy and that's it. Then chloroform came, but chloroform is not a very good anesthetic either. The patient is also semi-conscious and drifting in and out of consciousness. You imagine the situation there. And once that was challenged, when the scrutiny was done, the shock and horror of medical community, who had lionized Halsted and his successors and his two students who used to proudly call themselves Halsted students who went across the whole globe popularizing radical surgeries, was that it makes no difference to the person's life.
Really?
Yeah. Because you do a less radical surgery or a more radical surgery, the person's expected death or survival rate remains the same. So now you're dealing with a situation where you are saying something, but you're not able to back it up in terms of data or in terms of credible evidence. So whatever it is, it has to be backed by credible evidence that I have done good for the society.
Absolutely.
I have done something that has benefited this person.
Right.
Does not happen, then there is no point in calling it a great therapy because I'm trying to show off, how much I can cut, how much I can stitch and see how good my hands are and so on and so forth. Some survival pe baat ho rahi hai.
Right.
I could be a great artist and with lovely suturing skills, I can do this. But what is the butchery that you've done to the patient? So similarly, when you talk in terms of, like for instance, the controversy about stents and other things now, cardiologist will claim that they've done stenting with so much of wire and with laser and so on and so forth. In terms of survival, the results of stentings are not very good.
I have a lot of questions around that, but before we go, because we'll come a whole section we'll talk about when we come to the individual patients. I think a lot of people who are a consultant in the healthcare department or maybe if the government people would be watching. What is your suggestion as in what you as a doctor, your personal opinion, what should be done that could help to elevate healthcare infrastructure or the overall system?
See, you have a ridiculous situation that you have a space commission in this country. You have a minorities commission in this country. You have a SCST commission in this country. Women's commission of this country. Human rights commission in this country. There's no health
commission. What's the...
See, the ministry is just a minister with a set of secretaries.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, the health minister keeps on changing. He does not have a long-term interest in healthcare per se.
Oh, makes
That
sense.
is based on his interaction with the prime minister and what the portfolio.
Right.
Health portfolio is not a very prestigious portfolio.
Is it?
Yeah. Healthcare is not something that is given. अगर आप बोले कि defense minister appears on TV every, say, about 30 minutes or so. How many times you've seen health minister or minister of state for health appearing?
You're making such strong points because, nowadays I see news is about health minister doing some cycling and playing cricket, which brings the news.
Optics.
Yeah.
That's an even bigger problem. You don't have a national health commission, but healthcare is a state jurisdiction.
Right.
So basically, the state government is supposed to take care of healthcare. Fine. So, do you think the state healthcare ministry or health ministry is terribly interested in that job? They are not professional, at least if you ask me. It all depends on secretary to secretary, how dynamic that secretary is. And then secretary is also the problem is that, be it whatever as may, by the rule of God, IAS officers will take a transfer after 2.5, 3 years. That's it.
Okay.
Then the next person comes in and starts all the way from zero again.
As an individual, I was being so happy that to see at least my health minister is healthy because the past experience has been so horrible. And now you're making so much sense to all these things. And I do want to go back and research how much GDP or how much money is being invested here.
You want to structure the healthcare, first you structure the health ministries.
Yes.
तो अगर आपका कोई long term vision, long term continuity रहेगा, तो between the state and central government there will be a continuous inflow of funds, inflow of ideas, and monitoring and scrutiny of that also. But whereas it's all haphazard, hodgepodge sort of a situation. It all depends on me how much I want to disclose. It all depends on you how much you are interested in knowing. But if there is structure to it, that every month I have to send you this data, every month you disclose this to me, and I have to meet the standards, then there's a difference to it. But then that does not happen.
So how it will change if we have a commission?
The rule of law is that the parliament derives its power from elections. So let us say that there's 2024 election. Let us say, for the sake of discussion, that Narendra Modi comes back into power. What happens 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? He may not be in power. What makes you think that he is going to be in power 5 years?
Yeah.
Suppose he drops out.
Right.
Or he does not remain as a prime minister. There's again a break. Or person X does not remain a health minister. There's a break. Fine. Whereas a commission continues.
Okay.
So it gives a structure, it gives a continuity, it gives you a certain amount of steadiness. One. Second thing is, it is high time that India should have its own Indian medical service. It used to be there under the British government. And then the IAS officers took over the whole thing. And then they infiltrated into every area where they don't even have core knowledge of.
I would just like to jump because there's so many thoughts which is coming in my head is once you said about, the commission and the ministry is that in our entrepreneurship world, we always suggest, like I coach business leaders and I coach that, hey, the business should not be built around an individual, but the business should be his own entity and it should be a brand which drives all the structure. And I think that is what you were trying to say. The other very important point you said is that, even like nowadays in our country, the national highways are doing so good with all the infrastructure because they have a plan for next 25 years, 50 years. I think this is what we are missing in the...
National Highway Authority of India.
Yes.
It's a national authority,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
You don't have a national authority on health. Now, you call it commission, you call it whatever. Apex body कोई नहीं है जो continuously उस चीज को देखती है, monitor करती है, decide करती है.
Right.
So, because you have fractured it and given it to a state, Odisha takes care of its own healthcare by whatever it means has. Kerala decides on its own. Tamil Nadu decides on its own. Maharashtra decides on its own. There is neither any continuity nor any commonality.
So when AIMS, and we hear like AIMS have created some circular and all, these are just guidelines. They are not like mandate.
AIMS does not have any mandate to lecture. AIM does not have any control or administrative authority on us, number one. You'll be surprised to see with so many AIMS, each AIMS is a standalone hospital.
Right. Okay.
Even they cannot transfer people between themselves.
Oh, wow. That's how as an individual
Each AIMS is a standalone hospital. Because see, what happens is they planned on opening 4 institutes. So, AIMS opened, and French government donated Jipmer in Pondicherry. PGI Chandigarh opened because the then Chief Minister of Punjab took a lot of interest, Pratap Singh Kairo, and he got collaboration from Germany. So Germany government collaborated in setting up PGI Chandigarh. Similarly, SGPGI Lucknow also, I think, was probably American government or somebody. And each has its own set of rules, its own sets of constitution, which separate.
So they're autonomous bodies in itself.
Correct.
Okay. And for everybody, autonomous is like independent. So maybe my last question on this particular infrastructure series, and then we'll move to the regular like people like me and you. How do you think the private players play a role in the overall healthcare in India?
That's a very interesting topic. The issue here is that 98% of patients, only 2% go to government hospitals, take government medicines. 98% of healthcare is private healthcare. You go to a private practitioner, you take a private medicine, you get to undergo private operation, whatever it is. Now, the thing is, when the dominating players are private partners, obviously it is impossible for government to sort of dispose them of. You can't do that. The highly skilled niche areas of healthcare, like for instance my area, cardiothoracic and vascular surgery, I don't see how government can run those departments. Super specialties and stuff like that. So more or less government should concentrate on providing basic healthcare, vaccination, maternity, stuff like that. Advanced medical care should be given to private healthcare with a proviso that you have to make sure that it is accessible to everyone. Because private healthcare, the biggest problem is the money involved.
Yes.
I will be very blunt and honest. As a surgeon, Apollo does not give any discount even to me. Forget about yourself.
Okay.
There is no discount whatsoever. We don't have any discounts. And we have our own personal health insurances that everybody has. No, we pay for it on my own money. Apollo does not give it.
Okay.
Fine. So, today something happens to me. I might find it difficult even to afford, even though I am inside Apollo system, the treatment that has been given to me in Apollo, I might find it difficult. The problem here is that we don't have so much of money that is saved separately for that. So the option is that, one, either all of us make a decision and make it mandatory to have personal health insurances. Either government produces, provides that they're doing. State health insurances are there, and central government health insurances are there, like your Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Yojana and all those things. So Ayushman Bharat and all that. That is one options. Or some other mechanisms, whatever, trusts or something like that. Be that as may, healthcare, in my opinion, will become increasingly privatized. There is no two way about it. To handle 400 AIMS will be a very difficult thing. Because the whole idea is that there should be an AIMS in each state. We have 30 states now.
Right.
So you're going to open 30 AIMS, and then we should have a medical college in each district. That is the ultimate target. We have approximately 750 districts. 750 medical colleges plus 30 AIMS plus other mundane central government hospitals. I don't see how any ministry or any minister or any secretary can handle so much of work.
My head is still stuck that, you do not get an advantage being a doctor here, other than your network or the connections, which is a human thing. This has a positive side as well as negative side as well, because the point you were making is that this is something everybody should be serious about, right? The access to medical facilities should be a fundamental right, at least to a point where they can, take care of themselves from day-to-day mundane things.
That is $1 million question. Yeah, and we tend to think in terms of West as an example or benchmark. I'll give you an example. I went to Netherlands for a training.
Okay.
And in the hotel I was staying, the receptionist was sneezing and coughing very badly. So I asked her, why don't you go and meet a doctor?
Right.
Do you think I have not tried? I said, then what is the problem? You said, no, this is how it works. They all have health cards.
Correct.
So they go to a kiosk and you swipe your health card and book an appointment. She got an appointment the next week, Thursday. I said, if you have cold, it will be taken care of by itself, even if you don't do anything in 3-4 days.
Yeah.
In India, you can't even think of giving somebody an appointment after 7 days. Unless something is seriously wrong with your hospital. 1 घंटे बाद आ जाना, 2 घंटे बाद आ जाना. That's it.
Correct.
And you talk in terms of access. The waiting list on average for an operation in NHS UK, average is 2 years. And we're not talking here of very simple things.
Right.
Complex operations, you have a heart problem and something like that, you can't wait for 2 years.
Absolutely.
What do you do? No, they will all flow back to India, health tourism and all that, and get operated and go back. See, access-wise, we don't have problem. I told you, in terms of numbers, we don't have problem at all.
Yeah.
We have plenty of hospitals, we have plenty of facilities, we have plenty of upgradable situations also. I don't want to name them. They are private players. The biggest problem is making sure they're accessible to everyone.
Accessible to everyone. Yeah. Because I have my personal experience, and I was in London, and even I was going through some viral issues. The system over there is that everybody is allocated a GP, a general practitioner, and you have to go through your GP. And when I called my GP, I got an appointment after 4 days, which was ridiculous and didn't make sense to me. We just now had a chit chat about Aparajita. She was all about, how well structured the medical system is. I said, look, as a patient, I didn't get the care I needed. That's it.
See, the thing is, it's a bit of two things here.
I'm sure there'll be good things there.
Yeah, because see, if there's a structure to it, the good thing is when you're talking, say you have a heart problem, you will get referred with a proper referral letter to a proper surgeon.
Correct.
That does not happen in India.
Yes.
Because you go random banging into some gastrointestinal surgeon who has already given a scopy to you, then colonoscopy to you. Then he decides to let me also do a echo. Arey, echo mein to kuch nikal gaya. So let me now refer to cardiologist who then randomly sees you to another surgeon. So that is also not correct.
Right.
So the direction of the flow of patients is not structured or regulated at all.
Yeah.
It's all your sheer dumb luck as to where you land up and in which hospital.
I have a story, as in my uncle, he was getting dizzy in his head, and he was running to a neurologist on getting a nervous system checked and everything for 2 years, and it was increasing, nothing was happening. And when he came to Delhi, I took him to the doctor, and it was a pacemaker problem. Nobody could imagine, because he was just wandering to the doctors based on the symptoms he thought is right.
You have a very fragmented healthcare system that is not structured or regulated. These are the problems.
Right.
If you have a lot of structure to it, it becomes difficult to get in, to get an appointment or in.
In fact, that is why it's important, and for all the audience, do you understand why it is so important for you to be aware about the medical side, right? And that's where, even when you say it validates my idea, because if after 4 or 5 years, if I really earn money, if I had good contact, I do want to create a middle layer between the doctors and the patient.
Because again, the same thing as you mentioned, it's so embarrassing to see a patient who has dizziness and is being treated by a neurologist or something, and realize the problem kahin aur tha.
In fact, that works so much in India. We still are surviving and thriving.
We luckily diagnose, we get lucky.
Right.
Despite all this, in terms of COVID, you see our survival rates are very good.
Right.
If you think in terms of healthcare, let me be humble enough to say Italy has a far better healthcare system than ours. UK has a far better healthcare system than ours. And they simply gave up.
Right.
And UK, the thing is, they publicly give a broadcast. Unless you're dying and you're not having a pulse or something, don't come to hospital, you cannot do anything. Look at India.
Right.
Literally overnight we created healthcare facility. Literally overnight we created a vaccination schedules. We manufactured not just vaccination for ourselves, we actually created vaccine for the rest of the world also.
Yes, there were a lot of amazing stories that came out of COVID. It may be mask, may be PPE kit, or may be the people who were stood by, the doctors.
Because, my wife was right in the middle of it. She's also a doctor.
Okay.
And the biochemistry professor, she's now joint director of medical education. That time she was the chief of the main lab in our government medical college in SCB. Literally from 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, she'll work till 1 o'clock in the night.
Wow.
Huge non-stop, non-stop PCR and all those things. And what happens is, one day she came back with her PG student. What happened? नहीं, ये PG student है मेरी, and she was staying in a rented accommodation. घर वालों ने निकाल दिया कि आप तो कोविड का लैब में काम करती है, हम लोग कोविड हो जाएगा. So she has been kicked out of home. She came and stayed with our house. I had to move out of my bedroom. I slept on the sofa. She's sitting on the bed. We all adjusted somehow.
Right.
If you complicate things, the price to be paid is you have to limit those access. If you put structure in place, if you put a lot of regulations in place, the price will be in access. Now it's free for all. You can come in, walk in, get treated and go out. You don't ask me any questions. I don't ask you any questions.
I think by culture, India is a chaotic country.
I
think
that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and it would be very hard, but just in the interest of time, what I'll do is, beautifully you came to about your family and the story. You said, we'll start moving towards the human side of the doctor. And my question to you is, How do you feel when your patients treat you like a god or...
Embarrassing, and sometimes, initially it feels good. You get a high out of it.
Right.
But then sometimes you can't switch off actually.
Yeah.
It becomes very embarrassing. And I have gone to temples. I've been met by patients. I've gone to film halls.
Right.
And I'm standing in the queue to watch a movie, to get a popcorn or something, and a patient comes, "Sir, आप यहाँ film देखने आए हैं? आप film देखते हैं?" And it's like so embarrassing. You cringe and sit in the corner.
Isn't it so? As in, I don't know, good or bad, but we get so caught up in the roles that we forget that the person is a human too. And they have the human emotions, they have human vulnerabilities. Why I'm asking this question is, and you said it very good, that sometimes it feels positive, because I think the intent is to give you respect.
Yeah.
Which is great. But sometimes if somebody is giving you so much of respect, and if things do not go work their way, they will villainize you equally. I have heard people, because I belong to the other side of the table, either the doctors are like God, if they have worked for you. If not, they'll simply say, पैसे के लिए कर रहे हैं, सारा टेस्ट पैसे के लिए लिख रहे हैं, अरे सारे डॉक्टर चोर हैं.
No.
I oppose both of them.
It's very difficult to give a black and white answer to this.
Absolutely.
There's some doctors who are good, there's some doctors who are bad. And most of them are somewhere in between. We all like good lifestyles.
Yeah.
We all like a good pay.
In fact, I was coming from a other point, because I have a habit of taking responsibility first on me. If I am aware, if I understand things, I could reason out things with you. But the problem is, if I put my life's decision on you, right, I am giving you that access, or maybe put a pressure on you to take a right or wrong decision.
And the problem here is that if you look at me, I am an average surgeon.
Correct.
I'm bound to make mistakes.
I'm sure you're being humble, but yeah.
Let's be blunt.
Okay.
What do you think I am? Okay, I'm a skilled person.
Correct.
You think of me as a highly skilled carpenter.
Right.
वो जितना भी skilled हो, कुछ ना कुछ तो गड़बड़ होगा कहीं ना कहीं पर. Maybe 1 in million, maybe
Yes.
1 in 5 million, maybe
Correct.
1 in 10 million.
True.
So, do you give me that leeway of making a mistake on your father or your mother?
I can't.
You could be 1 millionth patient, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
But fine. But it is what it is. And the other side of the story is Indian healthcare is all about jugaad and cutting corners. India is a country of jugaad and cutting corners.
True.
Right? You have on a daily basis, I went to, again, I keep coming back to Netherlands, and the European way of doing things is like so alien to us.
Right.
You go there in a hospital, all the consultants come in by 8 o'clock sharp. They change their clothes and take a scrub, or change hoकर 8:30 they will go into the OT.
Okay.
Operation theatre में गए हैं, and sharp at 1:30 they will decide about the next case. 2:30 is the end. The case finishes. They'll come out, and if the person is, waiting for the next in line, they just go up and bluntly, "Sorry, madam, there was no time. See you tomorrow." 3:30 they'll take a round.
Right.
3:30 they're out of the hospital. After that they'll take a change. They'll go to a golf club or an equestrian club. They'll ride horses. They'll play football or tennis or whatever.
So they have a life.
At 6 o'clock. we've not done those things.
Yeah.
We can't even think of that thing. Even if you have a lavish lifestyle somewhere, all you do is work.
Yeah.
How many times you've seen doctors playing golf and going to clubs and all that?
And do you think we also intellectualize is saying that, we are trying to save people's life? Do you think it could be intellectualization also of the overwork that we...
It's a bit of a snobbishness, because it's like you go to an institute or medical college in the first day itself, you are encouraged to be a workaholic. You are encouraged to learn it by rote. You are encouraged to be a repetitive person who can get it done perfectly, like a Xerox machine stamping out Xerox after Xerox after Xerox after Xerox after Xerox. It's told to you in MCH.
Right.
You must practice surgery till you can do it on a spinal level, even when you're asleep. You should be able to operate.
I would like to mention this over here, where it's, because when I talk to my friends and they come and talk about doctor, I'm a big advocate. I take the doctor side. The reason being, I always say, look, when we were engineers, we made sure we study a night before the exam, right? We somehow managed to pass certain subjects. But when we go to a doctor, they are also human beings, right? They would have done their education. Thodi college mein bhi masti rahi hogi. They would have passed their exam. How could we expect all the doctors to be right all the time and to be at the serene mood? They might have a bad day. They might have a bad thing. Why can't we give that luxury or some benefit of doubt to the doctor? As in, they got to be right. They got to play the god. And, we are resonating something like that you should be given that liberty. as any other profession, right?
I really wish that one day it will happen like that.
And I do not see any way other than the awareness.
So that's a utopian dream. It should happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
before we come to that, even the structure of medical colleges and medical education per se does not encourage any kind of lateral thinking or any kind of relaxed deliberation on any things. It's all like get it done, go. The day you enter medical college, the day I entered MCH cardiac surgery, boss told me you go and take a what you call कबट उसके अंदर में अपना टॉयलेटरीज वगैरह डाल लो, अपना एक सेट ऑफ क्लोथ्स एंड अंडर पैंट्स वगैरह गुजार लो, ठीक है सर, और करके कल आ जाना, एक दिन आज तुम आराम कर लो, इट इज द लास्ट डे ऑफ योर लाइफ वेयर यू एंजॉय योरसेल्फ. ही टोल्ड मी पब्लिकली, it is the last day of your life you're going to enjoy yourself.
To the contrary, in our engineering, the 4 years are our honeymoon period. So what I'm hearing is that the medical life is, as a student life, is very, very, very difficult.
Very tough.
And you don't get to relax even if you come out. May it be money, as in you may earn.
No, not at all. पहले तो उससे people क्या, पहले तो जॉब खोजना होता है. I got through All India.
Right.
जो उस वक्त CPSC करती थी, PMT, All India PMT used to be called All India PMT, because my entire family is passed from Odisha, that particular medical college I took from that medical college. So 105 people started the journey. 3 exams, first MB, second MB, final MB. 64 people passed final.
Okay.
1/3 of a batch is gone. Then out of 64, then you could look for PG.
Right.
PG used to be very unstructured and a lot of corruption scandals and this, that and all.
Okay.
So there is no date, or you don't know the date where the PG entrance examination will be held. You get a notification and you suddenly start preparing. What do you do till you get to PG? There's no structure to that because it used to be periphery, village service in those days. ठीक है, कहाँ join करना है, कैसे join करना है? Rural service, a lot of people will say rural people need our services and so on and so forth. एक बार जाकर के वहाँ पर रह लो 15 दिन, पता चल जाएगा rural service. Like you're totally cut off, like totally you're in the middle of that place and you don't even know. यहाँ तो paper नहीं है, यहाँ पर telephone नहीं है, there is no television. क्या करना है यहाँ? And you feel so awkward. I mean, I'm a city boy. मेरे को कुछ नहीं मालूम वहाँ पर कैसे रहना है, क्या करना है. And there's a small broken down government quarter allotted. It has no pipe water supply. You have to, there's a well, कुआं से ऐसे निकाल के आपको नहाना है. There's a toilet with a large snake inside it. मैंने उसको बोला यार सांप है, इसको क्या करना है? सर कुछ को नहीं करता है सर. He does not bite. So you just do your stuff. थोड़ा सा हम लोग अरे भगा देंगे, okay. I mean, you can't adjust to that, right? There is no, you can't see yourself progressing in that direction.
Yeah.
ठीक है, आपने PG किया.
Yeah, great. Now we'll talk only about the people, as in, me as somebody who wants to take care of my heart. That before even I come to you, as far as I can try not to be on the operation bed, as in, very simply, the first thing what I have seen whenever there is anything heart related, or the first thing is people do is BP monitoring, right? Almost everybody, like one way or the other, either it could be the grandparent or parent or they themselves, everybody's aware about the BP machine and what exactly is BP is. When I was reading and I was doing the research about it, I realized and I learned that few years back, the American Heart Association had the standard for BP was something 130 by, anything above 130 by 90 used to be a BP patient. Now it's 120 by 80.
It's 135 by 85.
So now, whenever this shift happens, suddenly, and there was a logic that 900 study they did all across the world and then they have shifted. But suddenly, overnight, the people who were not a BP patient suddenly became a BP patient. Right? How much this is relevant on checking the BP and this particular machine? Because I would like my people to know and understand, as in the first step to understand their body, how these two devices help us.
You will be surprised to know that there is no such thing as a normal BP.
Okay.
We don't have a constant BP.
I love this statement.
There is no such thing as a normal blood pressure.
Correct.
See, the body's mechanics, its physiology and its readings will keep on changing with your age and stage of your life and the daytime also. Right. So the most accurate reading of the blood pressure, so-called blood pressure, is early in the morning.
Okay.
When you just woken up.
Right.
Because you had a full night of rest. Now the blood pressure reflects you're having rested state. As you go on working throughout the daytime, particularly in the midday, the blood pressure is expected to rise.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is not a very accurate statement to say that I measured my blood pressure, it was 30-90.
Right.
You should have at least 3 readings of your blood pressure, preferably a sitting or a reclining position. You cannot be standing up and walking around because standing blood pressure will go up. So if you are comfortably seated, rested, relaxed, and you've taken 3 or 4 such readings on different days,
Yeah.
think in terms of treatment if your blood pressure is high. White coat hypertension, that's why I
Okay.
said you should be rested and relaxed.
Yeah.
So white coat hypertension, what happens is if the doctor is rude or sometimes in a hurry, jaldi aao baitho, kahan ja rahe ho, come on, give me your arm, kya kar rahe ho, kahan ja rahe ho, then that person also out of nervousness will have a elevation of blood pressure. Or if he's standing, not made comfortable, is awkwardly sitting, there is a high chance that blood pressure might go up.
Right.
But it cannot be consistently up for so many days.
Okay.
Number 2, the home measurement of BP instruments.
Uh-huh.
See, the government has mandated because the earlier BP machines used to have mercury inside that. And it used to break up and the mercury used to fall. It used to create a lot of problems. So, mercury machines are now gone out.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's it. They're not available in the market. So, unless something changes, we are not having any access to mercury sphygmomanometer. Technical language called sphygmomanometer.
Mm-hmm.
So, sphygmomanometers or BP instruments are not there. You have only 2 choices. One is an analog dial.
Okay.
One is pressure monitoring. There's a
There's a kind of thing. Yes.
So that is battery operated or manual operated. Ideally, I will say manual operated would be better, but again, that needs a trained person to measure it.
Correct. Human error chances are high there. Right?
Human error, and even a lot of doctors will keep on making errors in that. Forget about non-doctors. So, अगर आप blood pressure instrument अगर आप battery operated देख रहे हैं, my own experiences, they are fairly close to the normal readings that we take in our clinics. I've seen a wide discrepancy
Between the digital and the manual. Because, my dad and always he gets into debate, he'll say the mercury one is more accurate because, all the compounders in a small town, they use that. And they'll say digitals are usually useless.
Useless, but the thing is, who maintains them? Nobody takes care of them, nobody cleans them up, nobody maintains them, nobody changes the batteries. Then you expect that machine, it's a machine. So if it's a machine, it will make errors if you don't maintain it.
But of the available, that is one of the best ones.
But the best one, by far.
And personally, I think it's more of an indicative whether it is on a rising side or a falling side rather than being
The
accurate.
problem here is that people say कि मेरे घर में 120/80 था आके मैं तुमसे 130/80.
दौड़ के आओगे तो आप
That was
My dad gets finicky with the 4-digit debit is 124 and 120.
current guidelines also there are huge problems with guidelines. And I said there is no health commission whatsoever. Health commission whatsoever. Now the problem is we duplicate our so-called standards from 2 sources.
Okay.
What is American standards and the European standard. Now whether you can apply American standards and extrapolate them to India, it's not very good because see they might say that the treatment of choice for this particular thing is laser guided so and so surgery. Do you have laser guided surgery available in this country?
No.
So can you say the treatment choice is that?
No, you can't.
ठीक है आपने अगर बोल भी दिया तो then you make it available. ना तो आप करते हो ना किसी और को करने देते हो. Again, the problem here is that American Heart Association and European Heart Association, they have changed the guidelines every 10-12 years. They keep on fluctuating. There's a lot of debate. So if you lower the standard, a lot of people, as you said, will become hypertensive. They need to be treated. So, इसमें फिर क्या benefit है? You'll be surprised to know that there are thousands of medicines available in the market in terms of control of blood pressure. Only 2 or 3 of them have been proven to prolong human life in studies. So, कहाँ है आपका evidence? When you say that in America, the standard of care is to give a particular tablet. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, amlodipine. Have you tried out amlodipine in India and shown that amlodipine benefits Indians?
That's a big question. It's a very big question.
Fine. Be that as may, today the standard of treatment is that the upper limit, what we call systolic blood pressure, should be 130, 135, not
Okay.
more than that. And lower blood pressure, what we call diastolic, should be 85.
Okay.
Between 80 to 85 is a gray zone. So we do or we recommend what is known as lifestyle modification.
Right.
So you should reduce your weight, control diabetes, control blood pressure, and regular walking, regular exercise, adequate relaxation. And the 5th aspect is your low salt intake. You should cut down on salt.
Okay.
Right? The more the salt, the more the blood pressure it goes. Now, the other aspect is you're cutting down on smoking and alcoholism. हम स्मोक नहीं करते हैं, हम बीड़ी नहीं पीते हैं, हम बस चबाते हैं थोड़ा सा पान. It's the same thing. The more you tell them, the more they relax. Even ladies are doing it. And it's now a fad and a fashion. You see youngsters and even young girls now smoking because now they want to look cool in their friends. So they are also drinking, they're also smoking. Fine, you're damaging your health, your problem.
Sure.
Pressure. So if 135, 85 blood pressure से ऊपर आपका recordings है, you need to be treated. The upper limit of blood pressure is slightly controversial because the upper limit of blood pressure, what we call systolic blood pressure, will go higher and higher with increasing age. So an older person, you expect it to be around 150, 160.
Correct.
You should not treat.
Okay.
But the lower limit of blood pressure is far more important. I'm not saying that the upper blood pressure is not of any importance at all, but I mean, you have to match it. Yeah, the lower is much more important because across all age group it has to be controlled. Now, the upper blood pressure needs to be controlled if it's seen in younger age group. For older age group, it's normal. So you have to titrate it to expectations because, again, as I said, there is no such thing as a normal blood pressure.
True.
Your blood pressure is predicted or expected value that varies from your age. A younger kid will have a lower blood pressure. With this 120, 80 is basically meant for a reference young adult. So as you grow older and older, your blood pressure also will increase. So for a 70-year-old male, 140, 70 or 140, 80 is fine.
So just moving ahead, the biggest fear, and now including myself because I'm about to touch 40 and suddenly things looks very different in the life when you start touching 40 is that, rest all the diseases, like kidney gives you some time, liver gives you some time, cancer gives you some time, like a couple of years, the heart usually and the news which is floating all around that people just drop dead when it's a cardiac arrest or something like that. That scares me. And I've been asking doctors that you are in human too, does that scare you? And one of the doctors said that I am 40 and I got my angiography done. What do you think other than this BP and BP check, which is the home remedy? What should people do to understand what is their heart health condition?
No, see, the thing is here, it's a question of statistical frequency.
Okay.
Basic statistics, basic mathematics. You catch hold of a person who is driving 120 kilometers.
Right.
You tell him that, look, तुम्हारा accident हो जाएगा. But what does that mean? तुम्हारा accident हो जाएगा. I mean, it is statistically significant that you're likely to have accidents.
Yeah.
High risk.
Yes.
Does not mean that because you're driving at 120, guaranteed to have an accident.
Correct.
Or for that matter, the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Vice versa, if because I'm driving at 40 or 50, I'll never have an accident. That is also not true.
Yeah.
Statistically, come hai.
True.
Again, the same thing, when you have a person who seems reasonably fit. Why I'm saying that? Because I get this question quite a lot from my patients. So and so an actor was there, so and so actress was there, and she dropped dead and had a heart attack. They go to gym, itna fitness karte the. Or jo se zyada fitness problem. See, you need to have an understanding of your body. What is the age? What is the stage of life you are in?
Right.
So you cannot go on exercising and jumping and pumping. You're not getting fitter. That's all.
How do we decide? These are all relative terms. Jada income. How
when you talk of exercise,
right?
Exercise should build your body's capacity for metabolism just to that limit where you feel slightly tired.
Okay.
Behind them, right? At least 3 days in a week for at least 10 to 20 minutes per session. You must exercise to that limit where you feel slightly tired and a little bit of sweating. Nothing more. Okay. Now, you should not confuse that with building up your biceps and triceps.
One of the study I raised, and it says that if your natural heart rate, and this is what your age is, this is how you should plan to attain the maximum.
There's a big chart that predicts your age predicted heart rate, target heart rate. The simplest formula that I can give you is that you subtract your age from 200.
Okay.
That should be your target heart rate.
For the maximum.
For the maximum. आपको maintain करना है for 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's say you said you're 40.
Yeah.
So you exercise till you reach 160. You maintain 160 for at least 3 to 4 minutes.
Right.
Slightly more.
Okay.
Till you feel slightly tired, थोड़ा सा थका सी then you stop it.
Right. So that shows that your heart is healthy. If you're not able to reach that, that means your heart is not strong enough.
You cannot reach it. See, what happens is two things can happen. Either you get chest pain or you feel extremely tired trying to reach it.
Yes.
So either way, what is happening is your heart is not able to pump.
Exactly. So my point is it's giving you signal.
One of the commonest problems is that people think that because we have seen movies, right?
Right.
So then you see like that. So everybody thinks the heart attack is preceded by a chest pain.
Okay.
That is not always the case.
Okay.
Like particularly for diabetics and those who have massive heart attack, they will not get any chest pain. Either they will simply drop dead or they will have silent heart attack. chest pain is seen in only 60 to 70% of heart attacks.
People get tired even in walking in the sun.
You hit the nail on its head. See, common people will talk in common language.
Yeah.
And we tell them that what is the common things that your colleagues or your friends do.
Right.
Like if you say a 14, 15-year-old boy, what is common for you? Run around, play a game of cricket,
Right.
right? So that's common expected thing from you.
Yeah.
What other friends do.
Yeah.
If you get tired doing that, then something wrong. So you exercise till 2 points are met. One endpoint is where you have slight tiredness, a little bit of thakan ho raha ho. The other one, this is again subjective.
Yeah,
because
very subjective.
आपके लिए कितना है, मेरे लिए कितना है.
True. यही problem है.
हाँ. So then there is at least 10 to 15 minutes होनी चाहिए. The objective criteria is that you should be able to achieve and maintain your target heart rate for minimum of 3 to 5 minutes.
This is great because nowadays with technology advances and with all these gadgets, I think these things are there in the phone, these things are there in the watches that people buy. At least indicative. I'm not going accurate or something, but at least there is some indicator where you can go and check what is happening.
What happens is that Indians purchase a treadmill to mainly hanging their underclothes.
Many of my friends asked me, should I buy a treadmill? I said, no, please, you'll just be अपने कपड़े सुधार रहे होगे. So the next thing which I was like, now being a very responsible child, I make sure my parents come and keep all their body profile testing done because they're old. So once in a year, I want to make sure. But now I want to do it for myself. So like simple blood count and liver function test and all these things, I do every once in a year. But for heart, I go clueless. Even
No, there are cardiac checkups available.
Okay.
So you have ECG, an echo, and a treadmill.
Right.
A treadmill is recommended only if you have either very strong symptoms, but a normal ECG.
Okay.
See, what is an ECG? It's basically a reflection of a heart's electrical functioning.
Right.
And that gives you a clue. But again, contrary to the popular perception, ECG is not a very accurate test.
Yeah.
The pickup rate of ECG for a heart problem is only 70%.
In fact, I think 70% is you're being generous.
Those are the textbook statistics. I mean, it's very hard to because there's no Indian data whatsoever. So, it all depends on the physician looking at the ECG and how careful he is to read. There's so many criteria, very small details. I don't want to go into those things.
Right.
Majority of physicians will not be able to do it.
Okay.
Fine. Be that as may, the textbook agrees, textbook of cardiology, that the pickup rate of ECG in a resting state, because ECG you have to do the patient lying flat,
resting state, yeah.
is only 70%.
Yeah.
That means you're missing out on 30%.
Correct.
Now, the problem here is that 30% is going to have a sudden heart attack and will either die or will serious disability or will have a visit to the ICU. If he's lucky enough to be taken care of, he might survive or he may not survive. So that 30% is not something that can be taken with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely, my same research told me about the ECG and TLT, which is like the treadmill test, is that they cover only the accuracies around 50% because your body needs...
ECG at rest is a very low thing.
Yeah.
What treadmill is, it's an ECG when you're doing a treadmill.
Correct.
Now, again, there's a problem with that because ideally a treadmill is basically a risky thing. अगर टंग टूटा हो तो आपने उसको जंप भी करवा दिया. So you're asking person to exercise to unmask the situation where you detect that he has a heart problem. Is that an ideal situation where your person has a serious heart problem? Do you think it will be a good thing to provoke a reaction?
I see your point. Yeah, I see that.
Just
then what are
because-
the alternatives? Like even the echo. So when I went for my echo and loved, the technician, he first time I could hear my own heart's real sound. And it was so amazing, the lub-dub sound. I was so fascinated with that sound, but still when I read about it, it said it's hardly 40 to 50% accurate.
No. Echo is not there to diagnose heart problems in the sense, in cardiac coronary problems. It cannot diagnose.
Okay.
See, an echo is basically an ultrasound of your heart.
Okay.
So what it does because the heart is basically muscle only. So it can see the heartbeat.
Okay.
If there is a wrong thing somewhere, it can detect and point out कि इसमें कुछ गड़बड़ है.
So beating is not proper.
Correct.
Okay.
It can tell you that heart is not functioning properly. But now heart is not functioning properly.
The coronary arteries thing.
Coronary artery means you already missed the bus.
So some muscles have already died.
Yeah. And
So what should people like us do if we want to know
well,
more about that?
again, ECG and echo at 70% accuracy is what we recommend routinely because we don't have any other test. Right? You cannot have a periodic angiography. That's not feasible.
Well, mostly when people go in, one of my friend, I was shocked. He's hardly 40 or maybe 39. And he said, I got a stent because my heart was 80% blocked. So then if you're missing at 70%, then next any test is going to show you 70 or 80% blockage.
Well, I can't comment on that issue. See, the thing is, 40 years again, it's painful to hear those stories.
Yes.
I have a patient in my ICU who is 18 years of age.
And trust me, he does not have any bad habits.
The problem is actually the other way around. It's not zero.
It's not zero.
And particularly for vegetarians, they have a problem because they take a lot of ghee and a lot of carbohydrates.
Okay.
Because they take so much of paneer, they take so much of milk derivatives, they take so much of ghee and they pride themselves कि मैं ghee में खोए में खाता हूँ.
This fat, no fat, oil, no oil, fruit juice, no fruit juice. What should a common man, and when I'm talking from Indian context, because I'm really enjoying, and a lot of things which you said was absolutely making sense. What should a person who's owning less than 50,000 or 20,000 should do to have a dietary habit which is like sustainable for the heart?
I wish I could give you a simple answer. Try to moderate your diet. That's all I can say. I went to Europe, everybody drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody boozes. The consultant who's operating a heart, he himself is boozing with me in the pub.
Right.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't take a small quantity.
Trust me, I was enjoying it. So.
Yeah, everybody takes a picture of beer, 2 pictures of beer.
And their picture is 3 times bigger than ours.
Almost close to 1 liter or something.
Correct.
उसको देख के मेरा I am sweating like anything. How do you finish that kind of a thing? And everybody boozes. Every day.
And still their life expectancy is much higher than
Much higher than that.
Yeah.
So why is that? You see, a part of it is genetic. A part of it is we inherited bad genetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. A part of it is because we overindulge in certain type of diets, thinking that by cutting down on meat or by cutting down on certain types of diet, we are going to do ourselves a big favor. That does not happen.
Yeah.
I wish, we can give an answer that meat causes heart attack or oil causes heart attack. No, it does not. It does not matter even if you take 10 kgs of oil per day. What your body needs, that which it will absorb, right?
Yes.
It's not about your intake. It's about your expenditure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
अगर आप 50,000 रुपए कमा रहे हैं तो you should be ideally spending 10, 15, 20,000 rupees at the most on kitchen.
Correct.
So 15-20 हजार रुपए जो आपको मिलता है वो आप लीजिए उससे ज़्यादा आप खा भी नहीं पाएंगे. Now the problem here is that we think of cholesterol as this, it was a dietary fat that we took in the morning. So because I took a spoon of oil, मैं शाम को मेरा cholesterol बढ़ जाएगा. No, it does not happen like that. Cholesterol is nothing more than your transport form of lipids inside blood.
Okay.
Now, when you take lipids, when you take any fatty stuff inside your food, it is first broken down into its components, through intestine, sent to liver or other places where it is converted into cholesterol. Then this cholesterol basically goes into your storage spots, skin, thighs, hips, buttocks, breasts, etc. and certain other places also. Now there it is basically stored. Ideally, whenever you have a shortage of diet, a shortage of nutrition, this fat should be broken down and converted into energy. That's the whole idea. Just think in terms of a mutual funds or something like that. Fixed deposit.
Yeah. So to simplify, just tell me if I'm doing it right or wrong. What I have started doing is I've started cutting off all my chapatis and rice, as in just lowering the value and increasing the portion size for my dal and vegetables. Yeah, do you think it's a simple way to get more fiber and more protein than just the carbohydrate? Yes. Just in favor of all the audience asking this.
Because once you reach 40, 45 or so, our carbohydrate requirement is also low.
Yeah.
Because our body is now beginning to slow down.
Right.
We are not putting on muscles. So you need some amount of proteins because of wear and tear, our muscles, whatever, they need to repair.
Right.
We need a little bit of carbohydrate to keep our system going.
Yeah.
Just to service the chimneys. And the rest of it, fat, a little bit only just to oil our palate. That's it.
Okay. So then, we discussed a little bit about diet. Now, I didn't want to come back to it. What as an individual should I do?
See, the thing is, the whole world is debating about diet and heart and other things. The irony is that nobody is able to figure it out. You have a country which takes a maximum amount of olive oil in Mediterranean. It's not in fact famous as Mediterranean diet. They have the highest intake of olive oil. They have the lowest cardiovascular problem.
Yeah. In fact, when you said about salt, Japan is the highest intake of salt.
Not just that, salted fish, salted food.
That is why they have the heaviest of heart.
And not only that, they smoke. Highest incidence of smoking, the highest rates of smoking.
I would love to share a research. What scientists did was there were 2 groups of rabbits. One rabbit, they fed all unhealthy food. with a lot of pampering, care, and love. The other group of rabbits, they fed the food with poking them, giving them shocks, giving healthy and very nutritious food. The results were drastically in favor of the rabbits who were pampered and given them a safe environment, even unhealthy food. Do you have any comment on that research?
What can I comment?
Do you think as a society we are more treated as the other side of the rabbit?
Yeah. See, intellectually, I am a little averse to self-flagellation by way of saying that, you torture yourselves much more and you're going to have a healthy life.
Yeah.
There was a time where the standard of care was to cut out the chest, cut out the limb, etc. All in the name of cancer survival. Have you actually given them the better standard of care, a better standard of life? So a standard of life also matters. You cannot say that I've saved your life and given you extra 20 years. If that person is going to remain as a vegetable, basically defecating and urinating in his bed and asking somebody to clean it up, that's no life.
That's not life. Yeah.
So now the question here is that whether it's not just a simple thing that you have given him a life,
right?
But what quality of life have you given him?
Yeah.
I mean, like diet only. आप उसको बोलेंगे nuts खाओ, ये खाओ. कितने लोग afford करेंगे nuts? कितना nuts खाओगे?
नहीं, हाँ. Right.
How much nuts can you afford?
I would love to do it for 20,000, but I have to put a marker so that I can.
No, what happens to them?
Yes.
What nuts will they eat?
Correct. So, all right. So just moving because we really have been talking so amazing and so much. So then, with all the heart and coming a little bit on the funnier side, can heart think? ये जो notion है कि दिल से आवाज आई, दिल ने बोला. What is all this intuition where people are mostly chasing? I see some girl and say, यार दिल से लग रहा है यही लड़की सही है. What exactly is that दिल? Can heart think?
No, it can't. Heart does not think, but heart does get affected by our thoughts.
Is it?
Yes.
So when I had a very severe breakup, I felt like it's burning here.
Yeah. See, what happens is happier people always live longer.
Okay.
And it's a proven thing that lonelier people and people who are introverted and don't mix much with society, they always live less.
14 to 16 years less.
Yeah. And for that matter, do you know that doctors on average, their life expectancy, do you think is more or less than average person?
My guess would be yes.
You're right, absolutely.
I think the
10 years less.
Yeah. Oh my God.
10 years less. Right? And what do you think about surgeons?
I'm just putting my bet on the stress. The more the stress, the lesser it would be.
It's far lower. It's 14 to 15 years less than average.
Conversation, we need to sit and talk more.
Yeah. Because I really, it can't be hypocritical, but we talk of healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The highest death ratio during COVID was for doctors. We lost so many. And without COVID, doctors do have a very high death ratios because we don't take care of our own health. I wish I could say that हम ऐसा खाते हैं वैसा पीते हैं. हम तो अपने हेल्थ का कुछ नहीं करते.
Is it the human behind the doctor?
Even says. We are little complacent because it's there and हम तो कर ही लेंगे ना. अब तो checkup हो ही जाएगा ना. I conducted a health camp in a school. Surprise, 40% of teachers turned out to be diabetic. And you go to a field or a manual labor and you conduct a health camp in a village, you don't see anything. But in a school, that's a residential school and a full-time job, they have a quarter given to them, they're diabetic. You are saying that, common person believes that heart is a seat of emotions.
That was one side of it, yeah.
And you bent forward on that and you said that, this happens, that happens.
Uh-huh.
For a long time, medical science believed that heart was a seat of intelligence.
No, I don't.
For a long time, it was believed that uterus is a seat of psychiatric problems. Have you thought about the term hysteria?
Yes, I did. Yeah, hysteria.
Why it is called hysteria? What do you think hysteris refers to? Hysteris is Latin word for uterus. Because you see psychiatric problems more in women, it was thought that it is something to do with the uterus.
Oh, interesting.
So psychiatric problems, hysteria, is that it is coming out of uterus.
Okay, now I understand why you
Fate announced that I have discovered a worm, which he said that he found in specimen of stomach. And he said that this is the worm that I isolated from 10 cases of stomach cancer. And therefore, I think that this is the cause of stomach cancer. Immediately, some sort of 20, 30 people, because I'm telling you why, one person says something, 20 people will keep on replicating it. It's a mass effect that we have. Right. And about 20, 30 people said, yes, we found the same work. Yeah, we found it. That person, Johannes Wippiger, was awarded Nobel Prize for discovering the worm of Sirius stomach in 1936. It was complete hoax, man. And not just that, even after we have known that it is a hoax, now that we know that Sirius stomach is not caused by worm, that Nobel Prize Jonas Vivajan still stands.
It still stands?
Yes, it was awarded to Jonas Vivajan for what he claimed to be the CS stomach worm. That CS stomach worm and the Nobel Prize is still intact.
Maybe my last question before we end, not the last, the second last, is that how do you see the role of AI in future, with all these
I'm very
machine
skeptical. I'm very skeptical.
There has been a story, I'm sorry to cut you, because there has been a story where, there was a boy, and I'll share this case study with you, is that 17 doctors in US, they said no, and they were not able to diagnose this kid, and he was in pain for 2 years.
So I'll tell you. I'll cut it
And
short.
the AI, I think, detected it.
See, I'm extremely skeptical of those things. This is basically a gimmick. What happens is you sell something like robotic surgery. You see posters all robotic knee, robotic hepatic, robotic this, that, and all. You have to understand first, a robot costs something like 20-25 crore rupees to invest in. I realize from you only. Now you're forcing the doctor to say to me, "Mera bill mat banaao." Then why do you come to me for robotic surgery? Its robot is not superior to a human being. A robot is. See, the whole thing is driven by pharma industry. Once they invent a new machine or invent a new medicine, they have to sell that medicine. So to make it look like as if it's a new, the thing now, they have to make it appear as a wonder drug. Oh, it's a wonderful drug. क्या काम करता है, कैसे काम करता है, वैसे होता है, वैसे होता है. And people get affected by all that glitz and all that glamour. So when you say of AI, artificial intelligence, see, ideally you should be in a situation where you have been examined in detail and thoroughly. Now let us say that maybe 1 out of 1 million persons who could not be diagnosed, despite being seen through the system, there will be slippages in the system. कैसा भी system आप डिजाइन कर लो, जितना भी तगड़ा बना लो, आप 6 sigma भी बोलते हो, 6 sigma में भी failure rate दिया होता है, it is there. So when a robot can make a mistake, a machine can make a mistake, who am I to say? So उसमें भी अगर आपके system में कुछ fall down हो रहा है, कुछ गिर रहा है, so that percentage is very small.
Okay.
So why do you need to invest in AI to diagnose 1 in a 1 million situation?
That's, yeah.
And I'm personally very skeptical because the thing is, when I belong to the generation where we are going into general surgery, laparoscopic surgery just came in. Then robotics have come in recently. Khatam ho jayega. Khatam kuch nahi hone wala. People will adapt, people will change. Certain types of surgeries can be done with robotic surgery. Certain types of surgeries cannot be done with robotic surgery. For instance, open heart surgeries, etc., very difficult to do. The precision that is required,
True.
the skill that is required, the speed that is required, the dexterity that is required, the training that you need. Technology translates into a lot of money to be invested upfront. And for all hospitals and all surgeons and all physicians to upgrade themselves to that extent, to be able to be, to become compatible, be on the same page, will cost a lot of money and it costs a lot of time. Now, the area times. Nobody talks about the side effects. Nobody talks about the toxicities and interaction. It's a wonderful drug. It's safe and this, that. 20 years down the line, using the same drug, being seen in all sorts of toxicity trials. अरे तब तो नहीं बोल रहे थे तो नहीं वो we don't know बस 15-20 साल के बाद में पेटेंट खत्म हो जाता है. Then the drug is open for individual license corrections, right? 15 साल का होता है. 15 साल का पेटेंट जैसे खत्म होगा उस ड्रग के बारे में सारे लोग फिर जैसे बाकी लोग प्रोड्यूस करना स्टार्ट करेंगे.
So just to conclude, what's your final advice as a doctor and all the experience that you have had? What should people do if they have to take care of their health, as in heart health?
I wish I could say something like that. So I'm not some guru or something like that. You're putting me in a very difficult situation. I am just an ordinary person. Somebody comes to me and if I'm able to diagnose, I can take care of that.
Right.
I feel that try not to damage your health. Try not to damage your problems. Try not to damage your personal, mental and cardiac space too. You already know what damages you, right? We don't have to go into those things. Don't overdo those things. And try to maintain a balanced regular lifestyle. उसके बावजूद अगर आपको कुछ प्रॉब्लम होता है हो सकता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि that is a guarantee it will not develop. Get a regular checkup done and get it treated.
Sure.
ठीक है, get it treated. There's so much of healthcare available. जितना है इंडिया में एक्सेस में लगता है उतना बहुत ज़्यादा. It's not as if Indians are bereft of healthcare. That's not true. We are not just treating ourselves. We are treating all adjoining SAARC countries. We are also treating Europe and USA also. If they can come and get treated here, we can also get treated.
Right.
But we don't want to be treated. We will put it out of our minds for the last possible second. And just when we are gasping for breath, we'll arrive in a casualty and they want to be treated with it.
Powerful point. As you said, there was so much of dimensions that you have covered, and it was enlightening for me as well, even though I tried to learn and understand so much. And you as a person giving those blunt and direct answers, I just love this conversation, doctor. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being in this episode. I'm sure all the impacts that you're doing in person, there'll be much more impact. Like this is going to reach, at least I'll make sure that it reaches to 10,000 plus people. And I'm hoping for more. I'm just being humble here so that I do not fail on the numbers. And guys, the same request is there. Do try to get your piece right. Do try to share this with your family. Do try to share with your friends. Because somehow in 20s and 30s, we all are immortals. But the life changes as we hit 30s to 40, 40 to 50. And I want you to be prepared. I want you to be ready for that fight as well. So with that, I want to thank you for all your time and being such a lovely audience. Do not forget to subscribe. And if there's any question that you want to ask, you can send me an email at hello@unbinarylife.com. And I'll make sure that your questions get answered directly by the doctor. So thank you so much for, sticking around. And doctor, it was a pleasure having you. Okay. Seriously, thank you. Thank you so much.